Okay, we're recording now, so let's go ahead and get started. My name is Jeff Wood. Welcome to the Web Dev Room. Today we're working in Canva. The last session we had, we worked in Canva as well and worked on some fact sheets. We're going to be working with similar skills today as we build a newsletter. We're actually building an interior page of a newsletter today, and we'll be recapping some of the things that we discussed and explored in the previous session. As always, if you have any questions or need me to repeat something, please feel free to use the chat pod. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and jump into this. So what is Canva? It's a great resource for compositing content. When I say composite, I mean you're combining things, combining text and images, text and video, images and logos, that kind of things. So it's good for combining disparate elements. It's not useful as an image editor. If you're simply wanting to crop images or resize images, use an image editor such as Photoshop, Pixlr, GIMP. There are a few others out there. Also, feel free to get hold of me and I can work on the image editing for you. What Canva does then is not so much edits images, but pulls different images together onto one canvas. One of the truly cool things about Canva is that the CSU fonts, meaning styles and sizes, colors and logos are all preloaded into it. So if you are, say you're colorblind as I am, or you don't have very good graphic skills, you're not sure how to work with branding, you don't need to worry about that in Canva. Any of the stuff that you're pulling from our own folders in CSU extension will already be branded. And if you're pulling a template from Canva itself, there's a brand button here in the upper left-hand corner. And that brand button is going to automatically convert your colors and your fonts to CSU approved colors and fonts. So it's really, really useful if you don't have a lot of graphic experience and you don't want to have to look up all the graphic standards yourself. It's good for fact sheets, good for newsletters, used a lot for social media graphics, for text, and this is a gross overgeneralization. You type it in or you copy and paste it in. Of all the aspects of Canva, text is probably the most problematic. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit more detail today. Adding images to Canva, you can upload JPEGs, GIFs, bitmaps, TIFFs, or PNGs and put them into your documents. Most video formats can be uploaded too, particularly if you're working with social media. That's a useful thing to have inside Canva or inside your social media documents. Office documents, Microsoft Office documents, the best way to work with those or to work with sections of those is to convert them to PDF, then to JPEG or to PNGs, and then upload them into Canva because Canva will not take those Microsoft Office documents in and of themselves. They got to convert it first to PDF and then to JPEG. I'm more than happy to do this for you, and it's a fairly quick work for me, so feel free to ask. I'll keep going. Real quickly, here are 8 username password combos. There's a couple of more. There's a total of 10 accounts in Canva for CSU. I'm in the Front Range Canva 1 at colorostate.edu account. I'm sure there are many of you in all the other ones around here. It's really easy to share between folders within an account. So in this example, within Front Range Canva 1, it's a little bit more difficult to share documents in Canva from 2 other accounts. And the best way to do that is to use the share button in the upper right-hand corner, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So here are the usernames and the Canva passwords. So just find your role and or where you are in one of these 4 graphs, and then use the username and the password. The workspace, and after looking at this, we'll jump into the workspace of Canva itself rather than looking at PowerPoint presentations. So there's 2 sets of tools. Along the top, you've got 2 toolbars here. You've got this blue one and then the white one just below it. The blue one, the file menu is really cool. I'm gonna look at that in just a second. Resizing menu is also very helpful. You can change your title here, and we'll go on to the rest of this when we actually jump into Canva. Below that is another toolbar that morphs into whatever object you have selected in the Canva document. In this case, you can tell we're working with font styles, font sizes, and font alignment, so you can tell that we have selected a text object to allow this toolbox to show up. Along the left side of Canva, we have this toolbar, and this allows you to add elements to your document or just show you your folders in general. So rather than get into detail here on the PowerPoint slide, let's jump into Canva and look at these in a real life situation. So I'll do a quick share. And there we are. Here's the home screen for Canva. I am here in Canva, Front Range Canva 1 is the account that I work in. Here, this set of documents is very similar, if not identical, to the shared with you option over here on the left. And this is a really useful spot, whether you do it from shared with you or whether you do it from home, because this allows you to see all the designs that CSU has been working on lately. And if you look through these, you can probably find a template that works for you, or a layout design that works for you, or some ideas for working with graphics. This is a really useful set of starting places for you to work on your fact sheet, on your newsletter, on your social media graphic. So look through these when you are looking for a template or a layout to copy. Over here on the left, we have all the folders here in this specific account. So I'm going to look for mine, which is technology training, and I'll select that. So by the way, in Front Range Canva 1 technology training, feel free to come over here and grab anything you need. I'll be adding more documents as I get them. I have a lot of fact sheets on here and a growing number of newsletters and social media graphics and such. So let me select one so we can look at the toolbars. So I'll click this one. I'm going to choose make a copy. And here we are. Let's make sure this is the one I want. Yeah, this is the one I'd like to work with. Notice we have copy of copy 1 over here because we just made a copy. So I'm going to loop off those first 2 words. I'm going to call this copy 4 newsletter class. So this is in our top toolbar. The file, you can go back to home, clicking this button. The file menu allows you to create new designs, show your margins, which are generally a 1/4 inch, or which are generally a 1/2 inch, show your print bleed, which is generally a 1/4 inch. If you have more than one brand, you can switch here. You can save right here, though the autosave happens nearly instantaneously in Canva. The 2 commands I find most useful here in the file menu are save to folder, which allows you to save to other folders within your account, and version history, which I deeply love, which allows you to move back to previous versions of it. So if you make a mistake or you want to look at an earlier version of something so you can make a change to an earlier change, you can use that using the previous versions option. Really, really useful tool right there. We have a question from Robin. Can you alphabetize the folders? Sadly, you cannot. However, I think if you, let me go home real quick. If you go to home and go to folders, you get a view that is a lot easier to work with. These can't be alphabetized, or at least if they can, I don't know how to do it. But so you just are going to need to scroll down. This might be an easier place to look. Let's go ahead and go back to the tech training. I hope that answered your question, Robin. I'm sorry we're not able to alphabetize. So we'll grab our, here's the one. Let's make a copy of this again. Bear with me. And keep going. Here is where you make changes to the name of your document. Here's where you can share it with other email addresses, so other accounts, as well as individuals at CSU. And you can use this download button to download directly. I tend to download using the PDF print high quality version and then email that to anybody who I want to look at the changes. You can also print or download directly from this button. Let me click inside the text box right here, and we can see that this is a tool that allows us to work with that text box. These are all fairly standard icons on a word processing system, so I'm not going to go into much detail here. Let's move on to the left side navigation. Templates from Canva are right here, and you can pull any one of these in, then hit that brand button and automatically convert the colors and the fonts to CSU graphic standards. Photos are existing photos from Canva. The truly cool thing about these is that they come with no licensing issues at all. So if you see it in Canva, you can use it. You don't need to worry about stepping on any licensing toes. You are good to go. If they're on Canva, they're already free of you having to worry about crediting anybody or breaking copyright rules. Now, as you scroll down these pictures, you'll start to see that some of them have little dollar signs. That means they cost $1. I don't think anything on here costs more than $1, however. If you want to add elements to your documents, you can do that here. Grids, shapes, lines I use a lot here, frames, and charts. For charts, I tend to use Microsoft Office documents and convert them to PDF and then to a JPEG, but you can try them here. They're kind of a blunt instrument using the charts in Canva. Text, we'll be working with this quite a bit today. This first one gives you headers, the second one gives you subheaders, the third one gives you body text, and you already have your font styles and sizes picked out here depending on the CSU graphic standards. Videos, we're not going to be working with today, but here are videos that come shipped with Canva, and again, there are no issues with copyright or licensing here either. You can change your background using this tool. Uploads is to upload your own pictures. We'll be doing this today. Use that button up there, upload an image. Logos, there's a few logos loaded into Canva, not a whole lot. You'll find a lot more in the uploads section. And then folders allows you to see all your folders and also all those folders that have been shared with you. These, I notice, are in alphabetical order, Robin. So if you do go to the left side and choose folders, you'll see an alphabetical list of folders. So with all that said, let's jump back to the PowerPoint. If you have any questions, again, feel free to ask me. And here we are. So folders, we've talked about folders quite a bit already. You want to keep your materials inside your own folder to keep stuff organized. If you're part of a county or part of an organization, which I imagine most of us are, keep your own folder inside that folder just to prevent an insane amount of sprawl among these folders. The sprawl among each of the accounts within 10 accounts turns up to a lot of folders. So try to keep things compartmentalized by keeping your folders within a larger county or organizational folder. The way to do that is open the existing folder and use this icon to create a subfolder. You'll get this dialog box. You do want to share it with CSU simply because that's going to allow that shared with you option at the home screen of Canva, just that much more content for people to look at. I would not put notify by email because you're going to be sending out a lot of emails that way. You can move materials from folder to folder within an account. As I showed you before, you go to File and then Move to Folder. You can't cross boundaries between accounts, but the workaround for that is to use that Share button I just showed you in the upper right, and use that to share materials with other. You can either share a view or allow them to edit. And this, again, is your workaround to move between the 8 accounts in Canva. I'll cover opening the template, and then we'll jump back into Canva and stay there for a while this way. I guess that's not quite true. I'm going to do one more slide before this one. So there's a ton of newsletter templates, a ton of newsletter examples in each of the 8 email domains. Scroll through Shared with You, which I showed you at the very beginning. I've got a lot in technology training in the Front Range Canva 1 account. And then as we continue to work with Canva, that will continue to grow. When you find a template or an example you want to work with, make a copy of it and rename it so you don't end up writing over somebody else's design, and then put it in your own folder. Then it's yours to go and play with however you see fit. If you're having problems finding an appropriate template or example, let me know and I'll share one with you. Some areas on these templates and examples are locked. Most are not. I don't think there are any locked in the one we're working with today. Some areas have the font style and size locked, but the content unlocked, meaning you can change the text, but you can't change the font style or the font size. To add pages is really easy. We'll do that today as well. Use the plus at the top of the page or the copy icon at the top of any given selected page in Canva. If you're working with page numbers, make sure you change the page numbers after you add that page in. And then our last slide before we jump into Canva, there's no font police in Canva. However, there are graphic designers who went to a lot of trouble to make this a visually pleasing templates and examples, and that we want our text to have the same look and feel across different documents and across different websites. So with that in mind, your heading should be in Batiste Bold, Medium, or Book. Subheadings should be in Klavka Medium, 14 points, though feel very free to change that if 14 is too large or too small for you. Your body text, Proxima Nova Regular, 11 points. So I think I mentioned earlier that text is a little problematic when you're working in Canva. So here on this slide, I'm going to talk about the 4 things that are very annoying on working with text in Canva. I'm not dissing Canva. I think it's a really, really great tool, but text can take some getting used to. So annoying thing number 1 about text in Canva is that your text attributes apply across the entire text box. So you can't say take a phrase or a word and make it italicized or make it bold or add a link to it. Those are things you can do after the fact once it's a PDF, but those are things that can't be done in Canva. You can apply text attributes to an entire text box, but not to any specific words or phrases within that text box. The exception here is headers. You can have a header in a text box that has a different size and a different font style than the rest of the text box, the body text in that text box. You can't add bold or italics by hitting a bold or italics button because they're grayed out, but there are italic and bold fonts available in the font pull down. And we'll do this later, assuming I remember. An example would be Proxima Nova Regular is your body text. If you wanted it to be italic, you don't have an italics button in Canva because it's grayed out, but you can change the text, the font style to Proxima Nova Italic, and that will make everything in that text box that italic font. The text brand styles allow you to pull in a new box. When you do that, you can adjust. This is the second annoying thing about working with text in Canva. You can adjust the width of the box fairly easily just by pulling on the walls of the box. But the only way to control the height of the text box is to add content to it. So you can't drag it down to make it bigger. All you can do is add content to it to make the bottom wall of that text box go down. If you change the size of the text box by pulling, say, one of the corner resizing circles and pull it down, all your text is going to get bigger too. So that's pretty annoying, and you have to kind of start over, or at least start over with your sizes once you do that. So a caveat here is to make sure you have your text boxes set before you add your text, that you won't have to go back and keep changing it to its original size. Last annoying thing about text in Canva, and we'll move on. There's no text overflow. If you're working with Microsoft Publisher, you might be used to text overflow, where you slap all your text into your first text box, and any text that is left over goes into the next text box, and then the next one after that, and so on. Can't do that in Canva. So you kind of want to have your final copy as set as you can reasonably be. There are always a lot of people looking at your verbiage and proofreading it. So you might have to make changes after the fact at the very end of building the newsletter, but be aware if you're adding a sentence to, say, your first text box, you'll probably have to take a sentence off the bottom, add it to the next text box, take one from the bottom of that, and so on. So because there's no text overflow, you have to make sure you are getting the right amount of words in each text box to get them to fit, and make sure you don't end up missing words, missing sentences, missing paragraphs because you're copying and pasting into different text boxes. Hope that makes sense. I hope that wasn't too long-winded. But just remember, there's no text overflow. You've got to add text individually to text boxes. Whew. With all that said, let's finally jump into Canva and work with text for a while. Here is our newsletter. I'm going to click inside my document and the Control+ to get a little closer to what we're working with. This is pretty easy stuff here. You just simply click in and then add your text as you need to. This is the Vitesse book. I think, and again, there's no font police, and this font looks absolutely fine here, but I believe it's Montserrat Light. Now, this is one of the fonts in our branding kit because it's here. So you can use other stuff here. The Clavica Medium as a subheading is a suggestion, but you can work with other fonts that are in the brand kit here. If you wanted to change this font, select your text, use the pull down, and then go for Clavica Medium. So here's our first page, and here's our second page. I'm going to insert a page between these two, and we'll work with that one. I don't want to copy the first page because I've got this header up here I don't need. So I'm going to go to my second page, use this copy icon, click on it. This is now our last and or third page, our center page, and our first page. So this is the page we're working on. I have a cheat sheet down here where I'm going to start adding some text taken from the La Plata website. So here's my first title. Right click and copy. We'll go back to Canva. I'll select this first subheader and I'll make it Common Southwest Native Plants. We're in Vitesse bold. Let's change that as well to Clavica. This paragraph comes next. This part's pretty easy. Go down, grab our replacement paragraph, right click and copy, go back in, and we'll begin to see with this cut and paste, while text can be a little problematic in Canva, certainly not the end of the world. You're going to have to go back and fix your line breaks if you cut and paste in. This is an example. You just need to readjust the line breaks in this manner. And I think that's it. So we have our first paragraph and our first subheader. I'll move this next set of objects up. Notice that I can readjust them using the guides here. And we'll do that for now. We're going to work with an object here. We're going to work with an image here. And we're also going to work with sort of a fake wraparound, what appears to be wraparound text. And what we're actually doing is using two text boxes to recreate the look of a wraparound. So let's first get this first paragraph. I'll go back to my cheat sheet in Word. We'll first grab our title. Go back in. Paste it in. Change our line break. And then we're going to change this to Clavica Medium. This paragraph comes next. This might be a little tricky, but I think this first paragraph fits in pretty well. Paste that text in, correct my line breaks. Oops. And then everything collapsed, so I'm simply going to select it all again, and here in the size, 11 points, and we're back to normal. Here is our image we're going to replace. So I'll delete once, which gets rid of the image. We now have the frame here, and I'll select and delete that again. So we're now going to pull in an image. So I'm going to go to Uploads over here on the left, upload an image. This is one I previously uploaded, but I'll show you how to do it again. Here is our lawn check. I think it's called lawn check. So I'll double click that, and it is uploading in here. We already have existing ones here, so I'll simply grab one with one click. If you click twice, you'll get two of them on your screen, even though the double click is sort of habit at this point. But you'll need to click once. If you click twice, you'll get two. You just delete one. We'll size this way down and then drag it over here. And notice we have the dotted blue lines to let us know that we were lining this up correctly. We'll talk a little more with our next images on how to refine putting that image in a little bit. For now, we're going to go to the second one and try to recreate the look of a wraparound. So this was our first paragraph. We're going to go down to our word cheat sheet, and we're going to grab these next three paragraphs. Control and copy to grab them. And then this is the box we're going to use. First thing I want to do is turn off bullets. And then Control and V, paste in our text. And again, I have to correct my line breaks here. Well, this is probably thrilling video to watch me correct line breaks, but I should be done soon. Yes, you can group objects and text. Whoever asked that, Carolyn. Hi, Carolyn. I'm going to pull this up so I can see it a little better. I'm going to do two things, actually. I'm going to go down here, and this stuff's in my way. I'm just going to delete it. I'm selecting them and hitting my delete button. Now I'll pull this back in. We have more room to play with. And I think that's it. So now I want to move this up because I need to recreate this line space to make this look like a wraparound. So that, up one more click. By the way, I'm moving this not by dragging it. I'm selecting it and using my arrow keys to move it up. I believe it's 10 pixels at a time. We'll go one more click here. Excuse me. Okay, so that is an easy way to, there's how you pull in your text. There's how to create the illusion of a text wraparound and how to add an uploaded image. We're going to work with this graphic next. Before we do, I want to go back into our PowerPoint and talk about images next. So you can import your images, as you just saw me do, into Canva. It'll take JPEGs, GIFs, bitmaps, TIFFs, TINGs, a lot of video formats too, most video formats. You click the image once to insert it in your document. If you click twice, as a lot of us do, you'll end up with two objects, so just delete one of them. You then position, size, and crop the image. If you notice, I always kept an outer edge of that image kind of off to the side, so it's easy to grab. So that's a little trick. Keep kind of one edge of that image, stick it out. Never resize larger, always resize smaller. And there's two tools to work with on the image, and this can get a little tricky. The sizing circles in the corners will always allow you to resize, and they'll always resize in proportion. So they're a really good best friend of yours when you're resizing imagery. But there's another tool. There are lines on the walls of the image. You've got resizing circles at the corners of the image, and then you have walls on the sides of the image. If you pull a wall in, so if you take that line and pull it in, it will crop. If you pull it out, it will zoom in. So it's kind of a multi-purpose tool. You can use it as a crop tool simply by dragging that wall in, or you can zoom in and crop using kind of a combination of those pulls out and pulls in, and I'll show you that in just a second. So there are two sets of resizing tools in any given image that shows up on the Canva canvas. There's also a crop tool available at the top if you don't want to work with these wall things I keep talking about. And rather than just call them wall things, we'll just go into Canva and look at them. And I'll show you how to group stuff. Carolyn, let me go back in. So we'll share once again. And I think that does it. Okay, so I'm going to first get rid of these 3 photos. They're already in the document, by the way, on our 3rd page. And I'm going to select their titles, get rid of those as well. So we'll start by going to our cheat sheet, pulling in this text here. There's not a lot of it. Right click and copy. And back into Canva, we need to go to text. We're going to drag in body text. In the same way, you can grab in a subheading or a header. This will be in Proxima Nova regular. And I'm going to paste in the text I just had. Move this center. Here is one of those walls I'm talking about. Now, it's not going to make it bigger for me to pull out if it's text. So I can do this. Let me correct my line breaks. And I'll show you an example here after I center it. If I want this to be bold or italicized, remember, things apply to the whole text box. So I'm going to use the pull down here. Right now we are in Proxima Nova regular. But if I look down at our brand kit options, I have Proxima Nova Alt Black, Proxima Nova Alt Bold, Alt Light, and so on. So I can make these bold, or for that matter, italics, or bold italics for that matter, simply by clicking a different font. It's in the same font family. It's Proxima Nova, but you need to actually choose a different font to get that to work. We'll then add in an image. I'll go to Uploads here. We'll upload an image or a video. This is one we already have on here. I'll put it in there, and then while it's uploading, I'll simply grab another one. One click, and that brings it onto our canvas. Now I'll resize. I think we look pretty good right there. We'll center our text now that we have our spacing figured out a little better. So let me talk about that wall thing I was talking about earlier in a little more detail. So we have this graphic selected. Well, when I make it bigger or smaller, I work with these circular resizers here on the corners. I'm sure you've all seen these before. But I also have these little straight lines along my walls. If I pull them in, it's essentially a crop, and that works on all 4 walls. But, and you might have seen just now, if I pull out, it zooms in. So it's a multi-purpose tool that will either zoom or crop. Let's say, and this would be a horrible graphic, but for example's sake, let's say I wanted to zoom on in this middle area, not have that text around. I would first use one of these walls to zoom in, and then I'd pull the other direction for a crop. And in this way, you can zoom in and then crop back down to get to a zoomed area of your photo. If I don't like that, I'll simply Control Z out of it to get our original one. But be aware you can use these side tools as some really, once you know how to work with it anyway, it's really effective zooming slash cropping tool. Anybody have any questions? Okay, let's go back to our PowerPoint. We're about done here. So Office documents, I don't think I'm going to bother demoing these today. I did it last time, and this is more appropriate to fact sheets than for newsletters. But if you're wanting to pull an Office document into a Canva document of some kind, or a portion of an Office document, say maybe a part of a Excel sheet or a graph that you have embedded into a Word document, easiest way to do that is to convert the document to a PDF while you're in Microsoft Office, then take that PDF and pull it into Photoshop or Pixlr. I can easily do this for you, and I don't have a problem doing that for you. If you're just wanting to crop out a table or a chart or a graph out of an existing document, that crop is probably best done in Photoshop or Pixlr, and then you say that it's a JPEG or a PNG, and that JPEG or PNG can be imported into Canva. Anybody have any questions? Okay, I'm going to throw a quick poll at you, and then we'll call it a day. So here's an evaluation form. If you just let me know how useful this was to you, if it was too fast, too slow, or just about right, or was it too easy, too hard, or just about right? Okay, nice. And I think that's it. I'll leave this up for a little bit longer for those of you who haven't voted yet. Here are some resources. Brett Herring made some excellent training videos. I have 6 of them on my site. The URL is right here. This whole PowerPoint will be up on my website by tomorrow. Here's my email address if you need it, and here's Ruth's email address if you need it. I appreciate you coming, and we will talk to you next month. If you have any questions about Canva that did not get answered in this, feel free to drop me an email, and we'll go from there. Otherwise, you all have a nice day, and thank you for participating.